welcome to Foreign Views, our weekly magazine show on Cavan TV. What we do every week is we go over the press and over the things that have been happening during the last few days, and we have our guests in to have a bit of crack chatting about it. So they're all gemmed up on the week's events, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Or we'll find out if they're not. But anyway, if you want to get involved or come and join us or come in as a guest, then just contact us at cavantv.com or drumlinmedia@gmail.com.
Brilliant.
So who have we got tonight then, Daniel? You introduce them.
Yeah, well, first of all, we've got Siobhan Wallace, who works with...
I work with Cavan County Council. I'm part of the Peace 3 team there. I'm the network coordinator.
Excellent, excellent. And we have, I don't know who you are. You're never on Cavan TV. It's Shane, is it? Shane McKiernan.
That really annoys me that called Shane.
Sean McKiernan.
Yes, unemployed Cahirlock.
Sean's just finished his term.
About an hour ago.
About an hour ago, so he's feeling a little forlorn.
If anyone wants to hire a Cahirlock, we have one available right here. But I think Siobhan's already hired him for it.
Whatever.
Well, you're doing something on Sunday. We'll talk about that later.
And last and not least, we have Alicia McCaffrey, our digital champion for the campaign. So, yeah, very good.
Yes.
Yeah, and Alicia, it's actually just been the end of, what is it?
Reach out and switch over week. So it's just a week to create momentum within the county to encourage people to switch to digital. So
Okay.
Lovely.
It's been a hectic week.
Yeah, how's that been going?
Yeah, really, really well. Lots of visits to daycare centres and meetings and on the radio and now on Cavan TV. So it's been a busy week.
Yeah, I can imagine you're looking forward to the weekend. So
yes.
Very
Good.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and it's really nice to have you all. Just sit back and relax. And we're going to start off with our first news story, are we?
Yeah.
And
Our first news story is
about the Lady of the Urn.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the new Lady of the Lake?
The 22nd Lady of the Urn.
Yes.
So, is it 22 years already? It's been going, or?
Who knows about the Lady of the Urn?
Anybody know? Sean?
You?
Yes, well, I suppose one of the joys of being Cahirlock is that I got to officially launch or assist in launching not one but two Ladies of the Urn.
Okay.
And I did that. I think I was the incoming chairman, and now I did it there recently again for this year's festival.
And what happens? What does the Lady of the Urn get to do or be? Or?
Well, obviously, I don't want to be smutty, but I mean, certainly. Well, firstly, it is a very good festival in terms of promoting the turbot, and they have a very. You would be surprised to hear they have a very good nationwide structure in terms of bringing contestants from all over the island of Ireland, and therefore their family and friends. So it is actually a very good tourism tourism boost. Now, I suppose inevitably, as you're there, kind of, if you were to look at it from the fringes, you might think you're in a Father Ted episode in terms of
the lovely girls.
You see, yes, when I was making speeches, I just had to. There was a little voice inside that wanted to do that.
Aren't they lovely?
Are they lovely girls? And but anyway, I resisted the temptation. But no, it's an excellent festival. Well, it's a kind of an entree then to the overall Belturbet Festival, and I think Belturbet is kind of the gateway into West Cavan. I think it's a town that has a lot of potential, and I don't even think they realise it themselves, if you know what I mean. And so hopefully they get the weather now for a wonderful week or two at the end of July.
Well, the fact that it's been running for 22 years, it's obviously very well organised, which is great. But I just have to say, I remember seeing you last year, greeting the girls at the courthouse, Sean. I was looking out the window. We were all looking out the window and seeing how much you were enjoying yourself.
They are lovely girls, you know. So.
But
they arrived in two massive stretch limos.
Oh wow.
So looking well.
Okay.
They all look well.
And it's great for Belturbet to get that publicity. And is it David Clark who's been seen?
Mark Leonard.
Mark Leonard.
Mark Leonard.
And the next lady there will be crowned on the 20th July. So we look forward to our new Lady of the Urn.
For the diary.
Maybe we'll try and get her on here.
We'll try and get her on, and she can come and tell us more about it, what actually happened.
Or the outgoing one, Tina Poland. She could explain what type of year she's had.
Actually, that's a very good idea. So, Daniel, get on to Tina Poland.
I will contact her. Yeah. So we're moving on now to another festival. The Fla is coming up, of course. The Vlad.
The what?
The Vlad.
Never heard of it.
It's a Vlad.
Never heard of it.
So painting a picture of the vibrant fringe FLA, Arts Programme of FLA 2012 revealed.
Yeah,
Kate, what's this about?
Well, there's so much going on, isn't there? I haven't got my bag with me because I bought the brochure, but there's wonderful arts opportunities this year. There's the Culture Island one, which I think has 7 or 8 events. There's the Transborder one, and it's just so vibrant. It's going to be amazing. So much to do. Is anyone involved in any of these things?
No.
I am. I'm involved in.
Wait, just ask again. me.
I'm delighted
So,
to be here listening to talking.
So, Kate, tell us a bit about yourself, Kate, and what are you doing for this?
I have to do a self-portrait.
Wow.
Yeah, which is going to be hung. Where's it going to be hung in the Piece 3 team?
It's going to be. It's part of the Piece 3 arts project, and it's called Heart Her Art. Basically, the group of women from the county of Cavan, and also a group of women from Ballybean in Belfast, and we're working with Ricky van de Berg to produce each to produce a piece of work which shows, I suppose, expresses our innermost desires and feelings, and we're also doing something collectively as well. So it's looking at women, you know, on a local level, personal level, and sort of even on a global level as to how they're perceived. So we're midway through the project, and I have to say it's been so liberating. I took part in the first 2 episodes. I sat beside Kate for the second one, and Kate was talking about how my patience, and I have no patience. So Kate, I dread to think what.
So it's to get the innermost desires and.
Well, no, it's about exploring.
Does
what
it have
you
an
feel
age
and what you
certificate for
feel.
Kate's one?
It's about a 4-year-old. Anyway, no. So there's a lot going to get back to the plant.
And actually, let's mention as well. It's again green FLA. That's something Cavan's put a stamp on too. So that's my own little sustainable green hippie thing. Is it's a sustainable green FLA.
And they're doing our town again, aren't they?
Yeah.
And plus a couple of new plays as well, I think.
May I say briefly, which I never do.
Politicians never say anything briefly.
And in conclusion, no, but one thing I must say is that Coltus, when we got the FLA, I would suspect were sceptical in some respects of its enlargement. They consider the FLA the second weekend as such, and their competitions. And I would suspect there was some scepticism about how we had enlarged it. That was very quickly put to bed when they witnessed it, and now they're incredibly excited about how we have grown it out of all proportion to what it was originally. And I had the benefit of sitting in on some of the internal staff committee meetings, and the level of preparation and the range of activities would be well in advance and in excess of the equivalent meetings last year. And I think that when we hand over the torch to Derry, we're handing over a far better event than it was when we got it.
Definitely, it's really developed, and there's more stages this year, and then there's more acts.
And I think
I
there
feel
was
sorry for Derry, really, because it's
We've
going to
set
be
the bar very high.
Well, one of the things that the Piece 3 team have done a joint application with Derry for additional funding, and so there are going to be joint projects. So Cavan still will be linked in, and the Piece 3 team will be linked into the Derry plan next year. And in fact, the Derry people are coming down to exhibit their work in the FLA. And one of the projects that is starting is a score that's going to be written. It's going to be performed on the last night of the FLA on the gig rig, and then over the course of the next 12 months, that is going to travel to Derry via various towns, Omagh, Strabane, and there's going to be a number of workshops, and in each of those workshops there'll be a bit added on to the score. So there is a link with Derry, and we're going to keep that. But I mean, there's I'm not from Cavan, but the thing that's impressed me is the vibrancy and how proud people are of the town. And I'm proud of the town, even though I don't live here, because you know, there's just so much talent. There's you know, the sculptors, the artists, the musicians. It is amazing, and it's been brilliant for Cavan.
And I really like the way that they've brought it across the whole of the county. So like, you know, Joey Burns doing the sculpture and doing the and stuff. It's just very.
And even on a commercial level, if you go into any of the outlying towns and try and book a hotel room that week, it's not possible. You know, so it's not just about the county town; it's about the entire county.
No, we're doing stuff in Ghana.
And even the surrounding region gets
Don't
a spin
mention
off.
Ghana, Kate, please. Yeah.
GownaTV.com.
Yeah. Welcome to Ghana.
But even into next year, I think in terms of, you know, next year is the year of the gathering, 2013, and I think what we have really is something that, you know, we can't let that go. We need to sort of capture that spirit and bring it into 2013.
I hope that's possible though, because at the same time, you know that everyone can make a real big effort. It's the third year, it's the last year, and yes, we're going to have a brilliant time. But if you thought this was going to go on and on every year, I think we'd all die.
It probably won't be the same scale.
I don't think whatever would replace it can be of the same scale, but I do think we have the capacity in terms of volunteers, in terms of organisational ability. Like you would pay big money for event management skills. So we have all of that capacity now. We've shown a capacity to fundraise locally too, in terms of the business community making their own contribution, in terms of sourcing other sponsorships. So we have all of those skills and capacities. So there's no reason why we can't eventually build up the equivalent of the Cat's Laugh Festival.
Hire out our
for
flat
some
committee
other
to other counties.
That's a good idea. We'll suggest it to the county council, shall we?
Let's move on, because I think we're at 12 minutes. We've only covered 2 stories. So Shercock Road footpath links to Forest Park, and this is up in Shercock at the Doonery Forest Park, and it really is.
It's not. It's the is it Doonery?
It is.
It is.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, okay.
It is.
So it's not. I thought it was connecting the Bailieborough.
That would
You know,
also be a
the
worthy
lake
project,
walk.
but no.
No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
right out of the entrance of Doonery Forest Park, the
Oh, right,
Shercock
okay.
Road out of King's Court.
Thank you for that idea, though, Kate.
Yeah, because I thought that would be really nice.
Yeah, 6
Yeah.
kilometres. So it really would be. It's fantastic to have it.
Or is that linked to the last story because Joey Burns is sculptors? Will that mean they're more accessible? And you know,
It
because
will. It will, and it just it makes it you know a complete
loop,
circular
isn't it?
loop
Yeah.
walk, which is always nice. I
Maybe a
hate
golden
walking
mile.
somewhere and then walking
Into a dead
back.
end.
Yeah. So no, that'll be really good. And I see actually one of our new forum members has been active in that.
Yeah,
that's Colin McKiernan.
Colin Kieran, yeah. He's,
They're hoping to have it done in a matter of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So congratulations, lads.
Oh, to be in
It takes-
Doonery and all that.
Yeah.
I don't know any more
It
about
takes
some.
organisation to do that because they have to apply for legal
Yeah.
funding.
Yes,
and all that.
the
It's
Chamber
a
of
lot.
Commerce are
Yeah.
mentioned there and
Yeah.
everything, I see,
And work together, so it's really good. Oh, just while we're on Bailieborough, just quickly, has anyone
But that's
seen
King's Court now.
Yeah, I know.
Broad,
Yeah,
Bailieborough
but
entrance.
actually that meant the area.
Yes.
But on King's Court, have you been up on the marketsquare.ie website?
I haven't, but as I went through the town of King's Court yesterday, I'm not allowed to stop in it.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to stop or meet any people in King's Court because my party colleague there wouldn't be very pleased. But anyway.
Wow.
Okay.
But anyway,
Very territorial.
but I still do. I go in and play the lotto and things. So
Right.
if you hear of a King's Court winner, it might be me. But no, I've seen the signs up, and I must go and check what's
It's a
going on.
brilliant
Dude, it's
website. If we
fantastic.
could do this across the county, it would be brilliant. You know, small towns, it's brilliant. It brings together the chambers of commerce, of the businesses, the local community groups, all the activities going on, the promotions that are around. It's just so accessible, and it's all about.
Well, we have
people.
Bailieborough.com too, so I
Yeah.
just want to.
But we'll check it out. and
Yeah,
have a
I
look and see
will.
what
Yeah,
you
I
think.
saw the signs and I
Yeah.
wondered. I thought there was some campaign to restore the
No,
Market
it's-
Square or something going on.
No, it's
Okay,
really
that's
good.
great. Yeah.
So sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, so well, we're on to our next story. Do we have anyone that could talk about this? New phase of peace funding launched?
Oh.
I wonder.
Surely not.
Yeah.
Siobhan.
Well, we're in phase 2 of phase 3.
Okay.
So we're already living phase 2 of phase 3.
Okay.
But the official launch of that will be this Sunday the 1st of July.
Mhm.
And it'll be at the launch of the Roll of Honour as well. So really, it's a double whammy. The launch of Peace 3 phase 2 with the Roll of Honour, and the Roll of Honour basically is a list of 652 young men who fought World War One and who gave their lives during those years. And it was a great piece of work. So we're very, very excited about the book and the publication. It's a fantastic piece of work. Angie Sutherland, who was the researcher, worked very, very hard on that. And we have a great array of people visiting. We have ambassadors from Belgium. We have Minister Fergus O'Dowd is coming down. Miles Duncan from RTE, who's a broadcaster. He's also a military historian. His uncle Bailieborough was his great uncle actually died in World War I, and he's a great interest in this. So he's going to come down and be a keynote speaker. We have the Irish Army Band. We have.
Isn't this the first time that there's been any kind of celebration of the Irishmen who fought in the war like that? Because weren't they all considered traitors when they got up and went off to fight in the British Army?
Well, that was the sad thing, and what I talking to relatives, it's still a very, very complex issue, and it's something that people want to talk about now, and I think it fits in so well with the Peace 3 funding in terms of reconciliation and
breaking the silence.
Breaking the silence. Certainly it's the first time we've had this type of event in Cavan, and last June a sculpture went up which was a tribute and a commemoration to the men. But really, that sculpture's coming into its own.
Right.
That was a piece of work. It's at the junction of Céadú Lane, and it's Tina Quinn worked with a group of people who'd been out to museums, been out to Belgium and France, and visited the graves there. But you know, there's such a phenomenal amount of interest in this period of history, because just as you said, those young men went away. I was talking to a woman from Cootehill yesterday, and she was saying the young boy that was killed, he was only 17, and he went out, he was the breadwinner in the family, the eldest of 3. He went out, his father was dead, and it was a way of making a living, and that's what happened. That's what.
But what, they weren't recognised, they haven't been recognised here, have they? I mean, didn't the minister recently, wasn't it only 2 months ago, that he for the soldiers of World War II, he granted
well, that
was for World War II.
That's what they have been in terms of. I mean, over in Belgium, you have the International Peace Park, which was visited by Mary, former President Mary McAleese, Queen Elizabeth, and the King of Belgium, and Mary McAleese was very, very keen that all the counties in the Republic of Ireland would compile a roll of honour of the men. So not every county has done that. Donegal certainly has, Monaghan has.
Meath, I think.
So there are a few counties that have done it, and I think you know, the time is right, and through the peace funding and the project that we'd started, the time is right for us to
and
commemorate
everyone
them.
is welcome on Sunday.
It starts at 12:30, and there was an open invitation. There were invitations sent out, and there was an open invitation in the South. But we are expecting big numbers to attend. So anybody wanting to come should really be in before 12:30 in the town hall at 12:30.
Okay. And then I know that that you're going up to the cathedral, which is.
Well, we're going up to the sculpture, the Co Cavan sculpture. That means Clear the Way, which was the battle cry for the Royal Irish Fusiliers. And we will be having a short service up there, the Irish Army Chaplain. There will be some young people reading some poems, some music, lane of reeds, and we have 652 crosses.
Yes, that'll look spectacular.
Yeah, 600, one for each of the men that died. Some of these men don't have graves. They were unmarked graves, and when you go over there, so.
Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
Good luck with it. I hope to be there. It's going to be great.
It will be a good.
Very worthwhile project. Well, we're going to go through an ad break at the moment before we go into our next interesting story, and we'll be back right after this.
welcome back to Forum Views. You're watching myself, Daniel Downey, and
me, Kate Reynolds.
Yeah, and if you want to get in touch with us or come on the show or any issues you want discussed, contact us on cavantv.com or drumlinmedia@gmail.com. So we're coming back to our guests, and we have Siobhan Wallace from the Peace team. We have Sean McKiernan, not Shane McKiernan, and we have Alicia McCaffrey, our digital champion for the county. So our next story, kind of contentious. We
had
have
a bit of a row about it.
Sean Quinn.
Week. Yeah.
Well,
Sean Quinn.
Yeah, we had quite a pro and we can't say anti, but we had quite a pro Sean Quinn person and.
Well, the latest development this evening, as far as I know, is that the judge hasn't put him in jail. They've been told to go back and undo what they've done. Yeah. So basically they've got to go get back all their money and all their investments in Russia and wherever they put them and bring them back into this country so that they can be accessed.
Does that mean he has to hand back the laptop and the €3,000?
Well, I guess it does.
Oh.
I guess it does. And he's been given 3 weeks to do it, as far as I understand. And I think she said something like, "We'll see how cooperative they are, and depending on how cooperative they are, then we'll start looking at more stronger penalties in terms of putting them away." So, what do you think, guys? Should he go to prison?
I don't think he should.
You don't think he should? No, because of the jobs that he's created.
Yeah, and he's employed an awful lot of people over the years, and he was very good to the people, and I think he was, sold by the bank wrongfully.
Right, so you think it's the bank's problem?
Yeah.
But he made some bad investments, and he gambled with many people's jobs and lives, and just because people make money and then are able to create jobs, you don't think they should be abiding by the law?
No, well, I know that he didn't abide by the law, but I think neither did the banks. I think he was...
Right. So you'd like to see what about Sean Fitzpatrick, the big banker, who's now... Where is he in the States, isn't he?
I think so.
I don't know, anyway. He's not in prison.
Right.
But his CEO is in the States.
CEO's
The
in
former
the States,
CEO
yeah.
is in the States.
But neither of them are in prison. Do you think, Sean, they should be in prison?
I don't know much about.
Yeah.
See,
I think if there's a rule for one, there should be a rule for everyone.
Well, I for one, I'm not familiar with the most up-to-date information on the case that you have. I just
told you.
I know you've summarised it, but I'm of the view. Obviously, there's a tremendous legacy, etc., in terms of job creation. There was a huge public support at the time they were in crisis. But for instance, the mismanagement of the Quinn Insurance Company now means an additional levy on all of our insurances in this country. The proposed rescue package would have provided blanket cover of 4 or 5 billion, which again we would probably have had to pay for on top of bank debt. So the law of the land is the law of the land, and I don't think there can be any ambiguity about this. And when you have a situation where people are being fined or imprisoned for relatively minor things, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be either, society must be governed by a set of laws and a set of rules, and those that make them must be seen to uphold them and enforce them. So, if he is guilty and deserves a prison sentence, I believe he should serve it. And I believe that if Sean Fitzpatrick is eventually found guilty, and I share the frustration of everyone else in terms of those investigations, let them go to prison. And then maybe as a society, when all of the blame game is hopefully expunged, we can, working together, plan and imagine the new Ireland that we have to create.
I know,
from
but
the
this
wreckage.
sort of thing's always going to happen. Sean Quinn argues that the bad management of the insurance company was down to the receiver who went in. So there's always going to be that kind of.
Well, I think the accounts that showed the whole predate. Now, I am genuinely open to correction, but my perception at the time was that the accounts that were eventually produced predated.
I don't know,
the receiver.
but remember, it's for contempt of court that he's being done,
I accept that,
which is for his investments when he was told not to.
Yes.
You know,
so that's quite willful.
All the
I mean, that is quite a willful act.
Yeah. So I agree. So I mean, if she feels that he was in contempt of court, then there should be a response. But there's a history in Ireland of all this stuff, and we've all been there. Siobhan, have you got anything to say, or shall we move on?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conflicting views, and I have that, I somewhere between Alicia and Sean in this. I do agree that the law of the land is the law of the land. I think he took huge risks, and that's why he created the number of jobs, and he only could have created the jobs through the risk. He was a gambler, and it's come back really, I suppose, now to bite him, the risk that he took. And in some respects, maybe he has been a scapegoat. But yes, I suppose he's been tried for the contempt, and that was a willful act. So, I mean, Anglo shouldn't have been lending him the money. That's
as well.
Possibly.
But everyone borrowed money off the banks, and I don't think it's just.
I
very
think a lot of people were led into it, and I think he was as well, and he got himself in too deep, unfortunately.
Although that topic predates these particular charges, so we do have to try and confine it to what he's being charged for, which is completely against what he was supposed to be doing.
Well, I hope he does cooperate now at this point.
Yeah, let's hope so. Otherwise, I think he's going to be in a difficult position. Let's move on though, because we could.
Do we have any politicians around here that could talk about the next story? No winners in Cavan constituency carve up. Politicians.
So what do you think? You mentioned earlier about West Cavan, but Belturbet being the gateway to West Cavan.
Well, and now it literally is. It's the gateway to Sligo Leitrim.
No, apparently it's Scrabby. It's Gowna.
We've
been moved.
Gowna is now the capital gateway hub of a new constituency.
Well, actually, the town of Belturbet is split in half by the river. I think we had a discussion on this in the council earlier, as much to brief members maybe and show the maps in terms of what's happening. The reality is that post the next general election, if that goes through, and I mean it would defy the precedent of history if it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I think it will. There's no point in being dishonest. It creates major problems in terms of how our county manager and the CEO of our VEC lobby national politicians in terms of projects either side of the divide.
Just go and talk to the ones in Leitrim.
Because because if you have the population of West Cavan that will be part of that wider Sligo Leitrim North Donegal constituency, it won't be called that by the way, but there is unlikely to be a TD domiciled in Cavan for that constituency. More than likely
it'll be Brendan.
Well, I mean, he will have to make a choice. He will have to make a choice. I mean, he lives in Cavan Town now. That is where he lives. I'm not going to speculate. No, but the point I'm making is, people represent the constituencies they're from. They fight for the constituencies they're from. But further to that, they fight for their own localities. So you're going to have Sligo and Leitrim-based deputies, and they are not going to be. If funding, purely off the top of my head, if funding for the secondary school in Bomboy is at stake relative to funding, say, for a school in Sligo City or in Ballymote or over in Dromore in the far west of Sligo, and they get a far greater vote from there, and let no one tell you otherwise, and let no one pretend that they give equal representation or equal effort. So that is the challenge that faces.
But actually, this could temper that, couldn't it?
I don't think so, Kate, because when you come into this, it's basically this whole constituency change is based on numeracy. It's based on having each constituency to be numerically similar to the next constituency. And numeracy is not a fair way to distribute representation. It really isn't. When you come down to just cutting and chopping parts of counties or regions, you're down to the identity of a people when you're talking about a constituency, not the numeracy of how many people can we squeeze into this constituency. That's how you don't represent people properly.
Well, no, I think there is some recognition that there has to be, you can't have one TD representing 5 people and one TD representing 50 people. I mean, there has to be some kind of balancing. And Sean, just to pick up what you said, maybe that whole thing about representing only your kind of local area needs to change. And so actually, if Cavan County Council has to go and start talking to TDs from from a different constituency,
Yes.
maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it just kind of tempers
I do not think
that local thing, because they're still going to be Cavan. That their identity is Cavan.
With
I live in
no,
Cavan.
but with no disrespect, and I know many of the politicians will be affected, but no disrespect to any public representative in Sligo. The notion that they will service an area starting down at Mullahoran and working its way up around near Ballinya, Crostony, Belturbet, then travel through the north of Ireland through Fermanagh to access South Donegal, and travel back down through North Leitrim back into Sligo, literally a journey of hundreds of miles. It's not going to happen. My ancestral roots are in County Leitrim. It makes me very sad that solving the injustice of splitting Leitrim, which was widely recognised by all parties, has been solved by doing the same to the adjoining county. I'd actually, if I may do something politicians don't do, I actually think, this thing of, we've reduced the numbers by 8, I think a far more fundamental reform is needed. Do we actually need 166 Dáil deputies? Could you not have maybe 100 Dáil deputies? I'd be in favour of retaining the Shannon and maybe making it more of an honorary thing, so that it doesn't actually encourage expense on the taxpayer, but that you do have a kind of a clearing space for making sure that things that are passed are right and are done in the right spirit. But I wouldn't be adverse to a situation where there are 100 Dáil deputies.
No.
Now that would make it.
I agree.
That would make it very difficult for people like me who would aspire maybe to sit in such a chamber. But I don't think the political system recognises that, and I think cutting down the number by 8 and discommoding communities in West Cavan and Donegal is not the way to do it.
Well, I don't know. I agree with you. Reduce the TDs more. I mean, 8 is pretty pathetic. On the other hand, I'm not sure it'll be as disastrous as people think.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I
Time
have
will
to
tell.
agree with Sean that
Time will tell, but I'm
the
not,
sovereignty of Cavan and the historical element of Cavan is endangered by splitting its constituency.
Talking of sovereignty, we should probably move on.
What's sovereignty and moving
I know
on
it's
have
coming
anything
now,
to
I
do
think.
with each other?
Well,
Yeah, okay, let's move on to
sovereignty.
the next story.
Yeah.
Well, there's a carve up there. There's a picture
You
there.
can't really see it. But you see, that's what I'm interested in, because they've included in the Anglo-Celt, they've included Scrabby.
Oh,
And I don't think it
Gauna.
is. I don't think it is, because we're in Ballyjamestown electoral area.
But that's a local government electoral area.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not the local government electoral area.
Or it was previously, though. It wasn't
No.
the old, was it not?
No.
Well,
not
Yeah.
at all.
Well,
Yeah.
my
Anyway,
view
people
on it
can log
really
on to the net and check.
is
And
that already it's a marginalised area just because
Yes.
of virtue of where it is geographically,
Mm-hmm.
and this to me just sort of accentuates its
Yes.
marginalisation.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it
in
does,
that
yeah.
respect, it
And they
doesn't
can
seem
walk
fair.
all over.
I can assure you, as someone who's a practicing politician, the boundaries of electorate areas are always subject to neglect and confusion, because people say, God, is that place at the ferry edge, is that really there? And then when they go down there, they're not sure, is this house in it and is that house not in it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's always.
yeah.
It's always.
Well, let's go on to our next story. Geo face jail if they don't clean up. 1,200 tonnes of waste was dumped at the Kilnaleck site, and it's everything. It's from kitchen parts, units, waste wood, metal, everything. This is a running thing. We've had a few stories like this over the few weeks that we've had. Just
Well, the dumping is huge in Cavan.
increasing massively.
Well, my only take on that is good.
Well, I suppose, I think they've pleaded from the story. I
Yeah.
recall they've pleaded guilty, and they have to go back. They have to clean up. It's a bit like the Sean Quinn story back to that.
Yeah.
So they've given been, an opportunity to do that. So hopefully they will.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they will.
Speaking of cleaning up, the council can't afford to spend a penny on Belturbet toilets as well.
Penny?
Not a
So
penny.
clever.
Yeah.
Have you only just got that?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, Daniel.
Bit slow today, sorry. What do you think?
Well, they were complaining about the toilets in Belturbet
We've had
2
this
weeks ago, and
previous.
it's a very similar story. It's just, they need toilets, and the council can't afford it.
Yeah, well, I think that's it, and there is quite a lot happening in Belturbet. There's the new town hall, the library. So there is big investment in Belturbet.
And it is excessive. Is it 18 grand? I think it's 15 to 18,000 euros. To render them fit for purpose. That's essentially it, which is quite a lot of money when you think of the investment that's already gone in.
Yeah, and I think they are
I
looking
can't
at the.
understand why it's so much.
Yeah, it's a
But
lot.
people should check out the quotes, because we were on the radio. We were looking to move the antennae from the Institute to Cana House, which is where we are now. We got one quote for 5,000, one for 4,000, one for 500. What can you say?
Back of a van, John. So we're on to our next story, something a little bit more uplifting. Breffni Integrated, a lifeline for startups. So
It's about time Breffni Integrated got themselves some publicity, because they've got a team of 15 people out there.
yeah, they do a lot of good work.
Yeah, a lot of
And
good work.
they're rolling out the TOOS Workers program as well,
Yeah.
so that's really huge benefit.
Yeah.
But again, publicity's always been quite an issue for Breffni.
Well, I think when you're so busy, it's really hard to spend time on your publicity, and sometimes that's the bit that falls by the wayside. We know that.
Ironically.
Yeah.
But it's worth. But it's great to see that story, and it's great
Yeah.
that they are getting recognition for the good work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And of
It's
course,
another
any
one for
entrepreneur
people.
starting up can use Cavan TV to advertise.
Yeah.
I think we just have to say that.
Yeah, we've been told to say that. Thanks, Dave. So we're where are we next?
Okay,
we're on
let's
to
move
our
on.
next. Pig producers cannot continue without support. Alicia, did you want to jump into this story more? What is the essential thing here is that in the last year, over 8,000 sows have been lost because of the pressure on producers in the area. And this is coming from Cavan IFA have warned. And essentially it's they've invested in Asia. 20% of their produce has been invested
who's
in Asia.
invested in Asia?
Well, it's through
didn't understand
Rostera, which is kind of like a contractor or a broker for them to do international marketing. So they go in, they sell their produce in Asia, but apparently the buck isn't being passed on. So the savings aren't being passed on. It's impacting on the local producers. So pig producers are asking for support.
Right.
This
Okay.
links in with a story we did
We
recently.
have a lot of pig farmers in Cavan, don't we? It's one of our
It's one of
bigger
our
industries.
largest industries in this area, agricultural industries.
I didn't.
Yeah.
It's can I think I'm just reminded of Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill.
yes.
I thought you were going to say the other Winston.
Well, Winston Bennett, of course, is a very
Well,
good
exactly.
expert on this issue, and
Yeah.
if you want to discuss pigs,
Yeah.
We should
bring
have
him in.
Winston in.
Yeah.
And it is a big industry in the county. I'm not qualified to speak in it, but Churchill once said that dogs look up to you, cats look down at you, but pigs look you straight in the eye.
And they eat you.
Yeah,
Cats eat
yeah.
you. Cats
No.
would eat you if you died. Do pigs
No,
eat you?
pigs.
No,
if
cats
you
do
throw
as
a
well.
dead body in a pigsty,
Yeah, no pig.
a pig will just gobble it up.
I really shouldn't have brought this up.
This is a really morbid conversation.
Yeah, move on.
Okay,
move
moving on to another
We do a special
shitey
piece on this
story.
in the future. So we're on to another crappy story. I'm not sure what word I could use for
The
this.
tone of this programme is just gone.
€5,000 fine for homeowners who failed to pump out septic tanks.
Didn't Cavan start this?
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, I remember this happening. There was quite a lot of political maturity in 2004 across the three parties in bringing in bylaws, and the voluntary wings of the three parties would have been disgusted, and councillors at the time would have come under a lot of pressure. I would remember, from a political perspective, being very annoyed with our own representatives.
But what are you
and
saying,
a local
Sean?
election. Well,
Yeah.
I'm coming to the point. But that was it was courageous.
What did
No.
they do though?
They
That's
passed bylaws for
Which
the
said
regulation
what?
of septic tanks,
Right,
which meant
okay,
that you
that's
had
what I was trying to-
Which sorry, I can assume everyone knows this, but
Right.
but I mean, because Cavan has been held up as an example at national level, and we got special recognition in a European court judgment for the initiative we took.
Yeah.
And basically, what I'm saying in a roundabout way is, if other counties had, to use that horrible cliche, stepped up to the plate when they should have, this country would not be facing fines, and it would not be trying to implement, kind of retrospectively, regulations which people find very difficult to accept, because they've been carrying on whatever way they wanted to carry on for so long.
And do you know how many people have registered in Cavan for the
Well, it's
septic
only been
tanks?
launched this week. The
right.
publicity drive, protectourwater.ie,
Right.
and that's essentially what it's about. I don't think, I've had quite ignorant responses to me on this issue from some people. No one has a right to have a malfunctioning septic tank full of you know what
Yeah.
going wherever it goes.
Yeah.
You know, that's
no
just
one
not
wants
acceptable.
that. No.
And yeah, but the attitude of some people is, well, I never had to clean it for the last 20 or 30 years, and I don't see a problem.
It's because of
But
the money.
but a stream, you know, a stream several hundred yards away might know all about the problem.
Yeah.
No,
And
I
the river
agree,
that it goes into, you know.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're going to go to an ad break.
Woohoo.
So we'll be back after this.
Welcome back to Forum Views on Cavan TV. If you have anything you want to see on the show, then contact us on cavantv.com or on drumlinmedia@gmail.com. So let's jump right back into our stories with European debt.
Okay, guys, what do you think? So the latest today, I mean, it's good news, isn't it? I mean,
That'd be
basically
positive.
they've separated.
It's something that's been called for years, really.
So tell us what's happened then.
Well,
to explain.
separating the sovereign debt. Oh, here we have a very interesting photograph. So it's basically dividing the sovereign debt and the banking debt in Ireland, and to see
Well,
how
on a
we can manage
European-wide
that, really.
basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that because we'd been they'd included our bank debt in our debt.
Yes.
That meant that the public was responsible and had to pay the taxes
Yes.
in order to pay back the debt. So now what they're saying is that they're going to give the bank debt will go directly to the banks and not include the government. So it should mean that we're paying back less money. And as far as I understand it from today, only over a period of 3 years, as opposed to the 25 years that we were going to be in hock to.
And that's the difference that it will make.
Yeah. So what will happen though? That will mean that we'll be able to get back into the bond market as well.
Hopefully, DV.
Yeah. So it is good in that sense. But the other nice part of it I like is the
growth
the
package that's included in that.
that
Yeah.
Monsieur Hollande.
Well, he got his way. I mean,
Yeah.
he took a stand and.
I think Mr. Hollande, and we had a very good debate with Catherine Riley where we kind of peripherally touched on these issues in the run-up to the fiscal compact. Mr. Hollande's agenda for the presidential election was essentially the same as Nicolas Sarkozy's, only he favoured doing things 1 or 2 years later. And it is if you actually study the two programmes and put them. And then he mentioned, he talked about stimulus. I witnessed a very good example of local stimulus, I have to say, in a county context. On my lap of honour, I inspected the Ballyconnell Inner Relief Road and the Castle Saunderson Scouting Project. But in general, people talk about stimulus. Small open economies like ours are not conducive, to stimulus. But I think certainly the thing about the banks is big news. At the same time, I think, and it would be dishonest of me not to use a forum like this to say this, the problems with our structural the deficit of what we're spending relative to what we take in remain, irrespective of the banking issue. And I think in that sense the country faces a challenging number of years ahead. Still, and it's important not to.
Yes,
no,
I agree.
Yeah,
but I still think
but it is
really
still great
valuable.
News. Yeah,
very
it is a valuable move
to
forward.
actually try and get stimulation of
Yes.
jobs, which has not been happening.
And it's good
and
for
it
the
will
world
in
economy.
And what the government have been saying to us is that we haven't been allowed to, because we have
Yeah.
to channel all our money into paying the debt. So we do have a bit of money to try and stimulate jobs, and I think that will be really challenging for the government to do, and I'll be really interested to see how they do it.
But this is a very
European issue. I do want to
European
mention
issue.
the third thing, though, just so that we can bring it out for discussion.
Okay.
Which is the fact that, is this actually going to mean that we're going to be regulated by the EU, and that the whole tax regulation is going to change?
Well, I heard this very good news early this morning, and I've been divorced from the media ever since, so I haven't really been able to analyse exactly what's been said or reflect on the repercussions. But I think there are a couple of broad principles here. The rest of the world has looked at Europe as the sick man of the world, and have felt European leaders have failed to act decisively, and every summit was an opportunity and a new initiative, and it was a flop. So hopefully this is a new beginning for the world economy, and confidence is an important part of economics.
Can I just put one thing to say that
to
say that it's a new beginning for world economy?
Hopefully,
but the cost of trying to reach that might be to have a two-tiered Europe, and that is going to be a problem sometimes, to have two different sections. And then you have the third element as well of just over the border.
What about the North?
Alicia, for example, you're going to be talking about a Europe which is
and Siobhan, we've got two Northerners here. What do you guys think?
This doesn't affect us. These are happy.
But it does affect.
Well, it does affect us.
Yeah, of course. So, in what way do you think it might affect us in the north?
Well, I'm. Whenever you said how it's affected me, it's affected me in terms of the exchange rate. It's affected me in terms of what goes into my pay packet.
But that's what's important, the everyday issues.
Yeah, and how every time I make a transaction in the north, I have to pay not only the exchange rate, but I have to pay bank charges.
And it presumably goes up and down, because of course I'm English as well, and my mother's just sent me some euros, and the exchange rate sent me some sterling, which I've converted, and it's a brilliant exchange rate at the moment for me. But going the other way, from euros into sterling, presumably it's very poor. So what happens then? What does Sean? What does that mean for the two women living in the north?
Well, it's. I don't think that I can suddenly tell them that the euro is going to be stronger against sterling, but hopefully it will be.
Okay.
I mean, hopefully it will be. And I mean, Britain too has its own. Britain, even though it is alone with its own currency, and that has had advantages in this crisis. I mean, if there had been a failure, people kind of liberally say, "Oh, sure, let the euro go." In the context of Greece, their economy would probably have shrunk by 5%.
Well,
I don't want to
get into
yeah.
No, but the European economy, just 15%.
We'll have a debate on it on a later show, Sean. We'll bring a debate into it.
There would have been a 50% economic dip if the euro had failed.
Well,
that's what's at stake.
But we can't predict it.
We do know that.
Alicia, for example, you get paid in the south and you spend in the north.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes. How are you impacted?
Well, I just noticed how much of the euro it takes to get sterling, and even, I'm paid into my account here in Cavan, and for me to transfer money into my northern account is $12.70 a transaction, just to.
Wow, that's high, isn't it?
Actually, can I also use you to bring us to the next story? How is that transaction going since you're with Ulster Bank?
Not very well the last week and a half, and I actually phoned them the other day because money still hasn't cleared through my account and no access to funds and that, because I had withdrawn some money from my southern account when I was in Lisnaskea and lodged cash in Lisnaskea, but they didn't say the cash wouldn't clear into the account, so it still hasn't cleared.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
worrying time. Yeah, worrying.
Well, that is. I mean, I think that's as worrying as the euro, actually, because if this sort of stuff goes on, where technical difficulties impact on us all.
Well,
It's
what-
really extraordinary.
One of my
isn't it?
colleagues today had.
Okay,
had
but we are going to have to move on.
Actually, I
I'm
just
really
feel sorry for the Indian technician that took the
I
blame.
feel very sorry for the technician.
Yeah.
Because we all make mistakes.
Well, maybe they've run out of money. And they're hiding the fact.
Don't say
they've
that. There'll be a run on the bank.
But the Ulster Bank is open, isn't it?
Yeah.
Monday to Sunday even. They've
Yeah.
been working.
Yeah,
They're doing the
they are.
best to try and accommodate people. So
Yeah.
I think we should sort of at least acknowledge that they have been
They
working
have.
hard.
Yeah,
tried
and
their
even
best
when
to.
I spoke to them in Lisnaskea, the Enniskillen branch is open and all the Lisnaskea staff are
Brilliant.
working in the Enniskillen branch.
Yeah, did you hear the comment on that? That NatWest staff or whatever who runs the whole thing says, well, we've got England sorted now, so we'll kind of look at the Ulster Bank. Okay, next story then. This
So,
is an interesting.
The number
this
of
is the
women
census.
employees exceed men, the census reveals. An 8% increase of male homemakers, maybe I should be a house husband, 13% fall in female homemakers, and a 10% rise in foreign national workers. It's an interesting change in Ireland's demographics.
I'm not surprised though. It's the whole construction industry, you know, went like for me. My husband's a carpenter, so he's in and out of work. So it meant, you know, when full time work came my way, I gladly took it because he had no work, so he's at home more with our son, and I'm at work. And I think it's the case for a lot of people because. There's just more jobs out there for women than there is for men, especially men
Is
who
that
have
the
trades.
case, or is it that the women will do the lower paid jobs? I mean, because the figure, what is it, Daniel? It's like 30,000 more women working now than men.
Yeah,
Something
there were
like that.
853,000 women at work in 2011 compared to 955,000 men, difference of 100,000. It's the smallest gap on record.
I suppose every family has to make their own sort of decision, economic decision, and whether it's more economically worthwhile for the man or the woman to work. And I know even in the work environment that I'm in, you know, there's maybe 3 people in the same situation as you are, Alicia, and that's not to say the men aren't looking for work, but it is harder for them, and sometimes the childcare costs are so excessive that it's probably makes more economic sense to be at home covering your child care rather than having to pay for that as well. So
I think probably as well what has to be addressed is some men who may be more traditional in their thinking, it would have a huge impact on them psychologically to think that they've been disempowered. That just try and help them that it's not a bad thing to be a homemaker. So you should be proud of it.
I do think it's something that some men could struggle with because, you know, they've traditionally been seen as the breadwinner, and for suddenly to be at home and, you know, it's hard for them to be at home all day when they're not used to it, you know.
It is.
I think a woman can occupy herself better at home, you know.
Unless you're at home when there's floods, which brings us to our next story. And Siobhan, you've witnessed this firsthand in Belfast.
I was in Belfast on Wednesday evening. I was doing an airport run, and I was in the centre, and I never...
An airport run?
An airport run. I was driving people to the airport, which is why I was in Belfast on Wednesday evening. I wouldn't normally be down
You don't
there.
have to give us a reason why in Belfast. It's okay.
But I've never witnessed anything like it. It was unreal, and I thought I was going to have to spend the night there. Floods everywhere. I saw maybe 5 cars submerged.
Wow.
Sounds
like Clonakilty. Have you got the pictures there, Dave?
They were up at Clonakilty and Douglas as well in County Cork.
But it was torrential monsoon conditions really in a very short space of time, and so many diversions. I mean, the police couldn't cope with it. You know, there was just business were being closed. I had to get petrol, and petrol stations were closed. It was just unreal situation.
When you see those things in real life, I remember when the floods were here 2 years ago, I got caught up in that. It's just unbelievable. What happened in Belfast? Because in Clonakilty, they think it was a culvert that got blocked, which caused the whole main thoroughfare.
Well, it was the amount of rain in that short space of time, and I think, you know, the way our towns are maybe designed, you know, they're not designed for that level. I mean, you have to look at the wider issue of climatic change and environment. Apparently the Isle of Man is almost submerged today because of the amount of rain that there's been.
Oh, really?
Sutherland, Newcastle upon Tyne had similar. So at the moment it's very warm, and you know, the conditions, atmospheric conditions, there's so much rain coming down.
We should market it, Venice of the North. Nice.
Okay, then. We're going to just end on quite an interesting story, which is this guidelines that Retail Ireland have drawn up on age-appropriate wear for children.
I think it's very sensible. I personally speaking, I think it's needed probably, because desexualization of young children, for example. There's quite a few clothes that are kind of
slogans and
Well, it's interesting when
here we
Madonna.
have actually, there's the guidelines, the key point guidelines. So fabric and cut should provide for modesty. Slogans and images. Alicia, you were just talking about that. I think do you have a story about that, or you were mentioning
no,
you've seen
just,
it? Or?
I can't remember. It was some celebrity. Her daughter had, those Love Heart sweets. She had a dress, and apparently on the sweets on the dress was all very inappropriate sayings. And I remember something about it in the media. And
but it is. I mean, but you do see, like when Madonna. I think it was Madonna that was on at the point, and there are a lot of 11-year-old girls there dressed like Madonna, just absolutely extraordinary. Styles that may need adjustment.
Underwear should be differentiated from adult ranges and provide for modesty. I mean, if you're throwing in guidelines for children's underwear, that's kind of...
Well, I think it's about, allowing children to be children.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of pressure on young people to grow up quickly. And I suppose if these guidelines...
But on the other hand, isn't it the right to choose what feck you wear on, yourself, really? I mean, you need to. It's another issue. I'm not saying that I agree with it necessarily, but really, one should be able to decide what one wants to wear oneself. Otherwise, are we not going to be back into the sort of Chinese blue jackets?
Well, I think there is a level. I think within reason that you should be able to choose. But there are things. I think particularly around slogans. I think things like the Playboy image has now become this fashion thing with the school
so much
bags
in the magazines and all. That impact upon 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and some of the clothes aren't appropriate for that age,
So you don't think something should be done along with the advertising at the same time? I mean, how can you
most definitely.
I mean,
definitely.
but that's not happening.
Well, I mean, that article is in the context of the retail guidelines, but I mean, I think there needs to be... I'm not in favour generally of government interfering in how people should live their lives, but I mean, children are children. Children are minors. They're people who deserve the protection of their parents or guardians, and they have a role in forming their choices and their views until they're of an age where they can legally, and they have to be assisted in becoming legally able to make their own choices. But I think all 5 of us here would agree there's a problem there, and that year on year, there's a more liberal attitude creeping in. And I'm in no way kind of being prudish, but I mean, let there be a liberal attitude for adults who can understand the repercussions of it, but not for children growing into adulthood.
But that's about parenting, isn't it, as much as anything else?
Definitely.
Okay, we're going to have to finish up, guys. What are
you
doing?
going to be doing the weekend? Alicia, should we start with yourself?
I see there's a tractor running Shercock, and my wee 2-year-old boy's mad of a tractor.
And so does he get a chance to go on it then?
I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. But
Okay.
he has his own little John Deere, so he's mad of a tractor.
What, a real one?
No.
Just okay. Very good. Okay.
Sean, what are you at this week?
Naturally, I have to mention the Bailable Midsummer Festival.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I hope that the weather is conducive to all of the outdoor activities they have.
Yeah.
They also have a very fine marquee.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I
and
don't...
they have a National Play event on as well.
That's
National
right.
Play Day.
That's right.
And the Yellow Snowmen.
So I am...
The Yellow Snowman, yeah.
But I will also probably have a 12-hour sleep because I can feel the year catching up on me even as I sit here on this couch.
You can do that tomorrow.
So
Siobhan.
I'm going to the pub quiz in the Crow's Nest at 9:30 tonight.
Brilliant.
And that's what I'll be doing. And
Very
resting tomorrow, and then at the launch of the Roll of Honour
Lovely.
on Sunday.
Very good.
Lovely. Excellent.
Okay.
Well, folks, thanks very much for joining us, all of you, and our audience at home. And see us next week. And that's us from Forum Views on Cavan TV.